Hello everyone and welcome to A Little Bit of Lip. I am Phyllis Founders and you are about to get just a little bit intimate with arguably one of the planet's most talented musicians, singer-songwriters. Take a dash of Bach, a pinch of Parliament Funkadelic, and a little tiny splash of Otis, Marvin. I'm even going to say Kool and the gang.
Kool and the gang.
But you also need a generous dollop of Mr. Prince Rogers Nelson, and
Sure.
then you have my next guest, Mr. Van Hunt.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
That was beautiful.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate
Even
it.
Kool in the gang.
Even Kool and the gang.
Yeah.
Even as it was in my head, I'm thinking, should I go Kool and the gang? Was that too kind of shiny suit, for you?
Probably.
Yeah.
But Kool and the gang's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Some of those bass, because I'm all about the bass.
Well,
I've no
especially
idea what I'm doing.
jungle thing, jungle boogie.
Fresh? Yeah, no, not Jungle Fever.
Yeah, jungle fever is inappropriate. Jungle boogie.
Yeah. Boogie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fresh?
Their album Fresh. Fresh, she's so fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Misled?
Misled.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Kind of.
You don't like it?
I like jungle boogie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boogie. What do you like about Jungle Boogie?
It was just funk. Yeah, pure funk. I like that.
Is that the ultimate funk tune for you? Or was Parliament Funkadelic more your speed?
Well, yeah. I mean, Parliament Funkadelic was probably the basis off which Kool and the Gang made Jungle Boogie.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
So yeah, Parliament Funkadelic was the quintessential funk statement.
Quintessential funk statement.
Yeah.
Someone needs to put that on a t-shirt. I like that.
A big t-shirt.
Yeah. A really big t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like really wide.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Exactly.
So your L word, Mr. Hunt.
What was it?
You told me. You said out of the blue. You just sent me this message, and it's like, what is he? And then I'm logos. And you said, yes.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking when you sent me logos, that okay, so here's a very eclectic, kind of quirky artist sending me a word like logos, and immediately I'm thinking logos, big brands, and I'm like, okay, so maybe he's giving us a subversive kind of approach. But then I thought, but hang on a second, that word in my world, in my Greek world, means something completely different. So I Googled, and I'm like, yes, of course, because it's logo. And that's really what you meant, right?
No.
Okay. So why did you choose that word anyway?
I was associating it with something Rudolf Steiner had said. It was about thinking, an approach to thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was really it. And I saw it and I liked it and I was like, oh, I'll use that one.
Because that's based on Aristotle's three main words that he uses when a writer wants to persuade you of a certain argument. So he has ethos, pathos, and logos.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought you were going.
Oh, no, so it is. Yeah, it's just that I didn't know, because I only learned about that through Rudolf Steiner.
Right.
Who clearly probably learned it like you did from Aristotle.
From Aristotle, yes, who was way before Steiner.
So I think that we're talking about the same thing.
Pretty much. So if I was to say to you in Greek, which is when I first saw that word, I was thinking of that expression that I've heard growing up. Σου δίνω το λόγο μου.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah, it's super deep.
Yeah.
And it basically means I give you my word.
Okay.
And I give you my promise.
Okay.
And there's even a theological perspective as well. It almost has, divinity. So you were on the money.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your description of it was much better than my choice of it. Yeah.
So now let's talk about love and art being one and the same.
Okay.
And you say that love and art are one and the same because great art, and I'm just presuming now, this is just based on what I feel, that great art and the creation of it is not possible perhaps unless love is present?
I think that yes, I probably wouldn't phrase it that way.
How would you phrase it?
I just feel like being art is expression, and the willingness to express yourself kind of shows you what love is, because it requires courage, and it's wholly frightening to express yourself.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think mere mortals find it so difficult to express themselves honestly?
It's really scary. You know, most people assume that everyone else in the room is thinking something differently than they are. Of course, obviously, once you express yourself, you'll generally find a chorus of people who will agree with you, but you don't really know that
until you jump.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there are times when you might express yourself and find that there are a chorus of people who don't agree with you, and that's scary, because now they're in opposition to you, and you don't know what's going to happen. So.
And then you stand the risk of perhaps not being as acceptable or as liked.
Maybe even being strung up.
That too, which is even a little bit scarier.
Yeah.
And I've been listening a lot to your music lately, and there's a lyrical quality, and I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here and because we've taken all these lovely photos and you're clearly a really cool guy.
Oh, thank you.
But there's a lyrical quality that to me feels like these artistic expressions of who you are came to life first as poems, and then it almost feels like the music was an afterthought. Because the heart of the lyric for me beats so strong that it's like, I mean, yes, obviously it's a beautiful song and melodically it goes to wonderful places, but I think the writer in me just attached to those words, and it's like, wow. And then I was listening to an interview that you did recently where you said that perhaps when you wrote these songs in your 20s, you weren't of the emotional maturity that could have perhaps even come up with those words, but somehow they came through you. Yeah.
Well, I think that you're right. But obviously you're expressing yourself, so you kind of have to do it through language.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I did use my influences like, Aubrey Beardsley or Oscar Wilde to kind of help me shape some of the words.
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's maybe where you sense the poetry from, or even a Zora Neale Hurston.
Yeah.
Or James Baldwin or something. But I wouldn't consider myself a poet, because I know professional poets who do that for real.
I'm sure you'll agree that you're not the kind of artist that's like baby, yeah. I mean, you're not
Probably not, no.
I think maybe I may have counted 2 or 3 babies in a few of your songs.
I try to limit them.
Keep the baby to a minimum.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in your perspective of love and falling in love, and listening to all your songs. There are some lyrics where you're very forgiving of the woman, and other lyrics where you describe her in terms of hot and murderous.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay. So how do you reconcile these two opposing?
A woman who I might be in a relationship with is all things to me. She's complex. So some days she is hot and murderous, and other days she's angelic and
precious.
Right. And I appreciate all those things, even all at one time. It's just something that, I don't know, that's a part of who I am. That's the way I approach life.
But doesn't the inconsistency of that drive you mad?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. Why would it?
Because one day she's all sweet and lovely and precious, and you're the center of her world, and then the next minute she's like, I don't want to talk to you, get out of my face.
Well, it's easy for me to get out of her face. I don't need to be in her face. I mean, I think that I drive people crazier than they drive me.
Really?
Because I don't necessarily have a position.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So you're like Mercury, I can't pin you down.
Yeah, totally.
Is that how you like to be? Is it?
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is that though?
I think that's a part of something that maybe happened in my childhood or something. It makes me want to be elusive, but also at the same time there for people, and their inability to be consistent, as you say.
Okay, so then on that, is there a defense mechanism at play with your elusiveness?
Probably. I haven't done a lot of investigation into it. I haven't asked myself a lot of that. But sure, yeah, I think that I do enjoy not being pinned down.
Is that because you don't really want to be fully known?
No, I would love to be fully known. I think it's probably because I'm afraid of ignorance, and I'm afraid of what happens when people act out of ignorance, because I've seen it turn really ugly. So sometimes it's just nice to not be fully known, but I would love to be fully known, because you can step out there in an attempt to be fully known and someone completely misunderstands, right? Because we were talking about that earlier, and expressing yourself, and then suddenly it all goes to, can I curse?
Yeah, go.
It all goes to shit, because people now have a misunderstanding of who you are, and now they're afraid of you. They're in opposition, and something terrible might happen because now they're afraid.
And they're afraid, and therefore intimacy breaks down.
Yeah, and a whole lot of understanding,
right. Connection's gone.
Yeah. And so as a result, I also try to provide that understanding for others, right? Like, so that they'll always know they can be whoever they want to be with me at any given point in time, without me being completely afraid of them or ignorant of the fact that they can be mercurial, they can be, hot and murderous, and angelic.
And angelic and precious.
Yes, and
precious. Precious. There's a lyric in your song, Daredevil Baby. The lyric, because I'm a romantic.
Ooh.
I like the perfection of romance.
Okay.
And I know it's not real. I know this. I know it's not Hollywood. I know it's not a carefully scripted,
Yeah.
There's a line in the song, you don't know anything till you open up your heart and find that you can't stop bleeding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, quite a confrontational lyric. I found it, while there's authenticity and there's honesty and vulnerability in those 10 or 12 words, there's something quite intimidating about that. Are you suggesting that anytime you open up your heart, that's what you'll find?
Well, that was another example of me writing something that I hadn't necessarily lived. I just knew that it needed to be said, and it needed to be honest, right? If that makes sense. Now I guess we're 12, 13 years removed from that song, and I feel like I've lived a little bit of it, and I think that the lyric is basically that you do kind of have to express yourself in order to materialize your thoughts, and that's all that kind of really matters, as long as somebody has an opportunity to respond to who you are, and then you can kind of make the contribution, right, to what's happening to life, to be a part of what this is, and not just in a theoretical sense, but in a very real
sort of visceral sense.
Yeah.
So you're not really living an authentic life unless you are perhaps being completely true to yourself and those around you. Is that really what the lyric's saying?
Well, the word authentic, that's a pretty strong word to me. Like, I feel like if I'm using that, then I'm calling somebody inauthentic if I say that. I don't mean to say that. I just think that if you want to be somewhat self-fulfilled, then you're going to have to participate in life in a physical sense. Like, it's not enough to just theorize about what people are. You have to kind of jump out there, and throw your heart up on the table, put your cards on the table.
That's right. Yeah. And then there's flying without wings.
Right. Same thing.
That's what you said. For that split second there, you're just like, did I write those? What is she talking about? Yes, you wrote those words.
Yeah.
On the subject of logos, how it's very much about words.
Yeah.
And there's another lyric, and you actually made fun of when I wrote these lyrics to you the other day. Exit the vacant hills, look for a new thrill, in character.
Yeah.
And you said, that's a sexy lyric. And that lost me completely because it's like, but is it?
You don't think so?
I like it, but I'm just questioning as to where the sexiness comes from. I mean, I can kind of get it, but I don't think you're that blatant in your lyric writing. Or are you? Have I got you all wrong?
Well, what I meant when I said that was sexy was not necessarily the sentiment as opposed to the eloquence of it. I think it's like beautiful to read and look at and feel that phrase.
Right.
Exit the vacant heels. And that's what actually attracted to me. Actually, I think I read something vacant heels, vacant area or something, and it made me think about that line, putting that line together. Okay. Yeah. And look for a new thrill. Yeah.
A new thrill. What's looking for a new thrill look like for you in this space and time?
Like right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking for a new thrill. I think this is looking for a new thrill. Accepting an invitation from some random Australian to come and be on their show. You know, I definitely think that fits.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone's got idiosyncrasies. Do you have any idiosyncrasies?
Sure.
Okay, so let's hear them. Let's equal out the idiosyncrasies.
Mine have played out. You've been talking about many of them in songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that where your idiosyncrasies live?
Yeah, totally. Well, in my expression.
So name a couple of others which stand out for you. When you first wrote them, did you think, yes, finally, I feel more cleansed?
No, I didn't. Actually.
You didn't feel more cleansed?
No.
Okay.
I've never felt that with an expression. I've never felt cathartic.
Really?
Yeah. Not at all.
But that's what artistic expression. I mean, when I write something, if I've got something in my head and it's just really bothering me, I find that it helps if I do a big fat journal entry, and then it's done and it's out, and it's.
But it's kind of like going to the bathroom. Like, I got something to say, but then it just all comes back and fills back up anyway. So it feels like this kind of big cyclical bio process. That
so
just
you just
never
shot
ends.
down that romantic concept in flames. You know that, right?
I mean, I'm sorry.
Right. Another artist who was very honest, and this is a clumsy segue, but we'll go there.
Okay.
Prince. So victim and villains, where Prince is concerned. The people that I've talked to who worked with him quite intimately were very aware of the demon and the angel that sat on his shoulders.
Okay.
And he struggled with the secular and the sacred all his life.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that artist and that level of artistry impact on you?
Oh, well, I mean, his artistry was huge on me, but mainly because it was just so flawless. Prince was about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
You can argue, Louis Armstrong or Ray Charles in terms of artists who've made pop music and for a commercial application. I think that it's him and Louis Armstrong and Ray Charles.
Yes. Stevie Wonder?
Well, Stevie's fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, the powerhouse. And it came up through a school, through Motown, that very well prepared him for the kind of success he had. Prince didn't have that. He just had this kind of military-like discipline that I imagine he got from his father.
Right. And really self-made.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, really, really determined, and that was based on a lot of motivation, reason for the motivation too. Some neurosis there.
A little tiny bit, yeah.
And so I do think his accomplishment to just come from, the Midwest, kind of, excuse me, Minneapolis, but nowhere Midwest to the top of the global music world.
Absolutely.
I think it's fascinating. And I do think that his music, in terms of when he was playing, writing, recording, producing, was about as flawless as it gets. Maybe with the exception of Chuck Berry.
Was that flawlessness managed to such a degree that perhaps it lost its spontaneity at any time, or do you think he was always, it just flowed?
Yeah, I think he was always pretty spontaneous because, I've gotten that information from the people who worked with him as well. And I think that's just the way he recorded. And he played all the time. But I think that where people lose who Prince was is when they see him just kind of derail from the pop commercial world.
Right.
And that's going to happen with anybody. As he got older, he was less in, less the flavor of the month, and other people, began to be more relevant than he was. And I do think that being relevant was important to him.
Ego.
Yeah, but at the same time, he never really lost the spontaneity. He certainly didn't lose the talent, but what wasn't there was the inspiration. He wasn't surrounded by people who were, of the moment and at the apex of the culture, like he had been in the late 70s, early 80s.
Have you met Prince? You've been in Prince's orbit, so he knew about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of those meetings?
Well,
Part 2 of this exclusive interview with Van Hunt coming soon on Season 2 of A Little Bit of Lip.